I want to switch gears a little in the last, 15 minutes that we're talking, and ask you a little bit about you and about the podcast that you do. So, obviously, for you had co-hosted Woke Bros with Michael Brooks. And then later on also Nando. So do you want to tell me a little bit about that podcast and how you guys got
Yeah,
started in the first place?
absolutely. So me and Mike became friends, shoot, man, probably around 2015.
Mm.
Um, I had became I had found Majority Report via Chris Hayes' show. I know some people on the left hate Hayes and hate MSNBC, which is understandable, but I actually think he's a great reporter. I think he's the best of whatever you're going to get on the
Yeah,
major freaking channels. Anyway,
right, for
Sam was
sure.
on there. So I was like, oh, let me check out his YouTube show. I like Sam because like Sam on MSNBC is like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like somebody coming to your dinner table and putting his dirty boots on it, right? Like Sam is like a flaming lefty on MSNBC, right? So I was
Right.
interested in that. And so I caught Majority and I enjoyed the show and I caught a Michael Monday. And so I was like, man, who is this dude? This dude is great, right? So of course I become a fan of Mike.
Mm.
And one day I'm listening to Majority, Michael Monday, and he does one of his infamous Nation of Islam Barack Obama jokes, which is genius on like 1,000 levels.
Yeah.
Just fucking genius. Just because like I had just started becoming politically awakened at the time too. And you know, when you get a sense of what right wingers thought of Obama
Yeah.
versus who the guy actually is,
Right, right,
like he
right,
is
right, right.
literally a glass of milk, y'all. You know, and like that disconnect and that Michael could tap into it and just explain the absurdity of that position. I just thought was genius. So I did
Mm.
something that I never do. I reached out to him on Twitter and I was like, yo, that fucking joke was genius. And, you know, at the time I had sort of just started out in my sports media stuff. And he knew that. And he was like, oh, that's cool. And so we connected because we were both in New York City at the time. So we connected. We got beers and shit in Brooklyn and became friends. And we always became friends. And we remained friends of, throughout the duration of that time. And so, of course, he tells me he's going to start his own venture eventually, TMBS. I remember the freaking outline that he had of the type of show it was going to be, what he was going to offer the people on Patreon, like all of the different shit. Like he had this shit beautifully laid out. I remember reading it and being like, bruh, this is going to be so fucking successful. Like, this is incredible. And so, you know, that happened. And me and him had always wanted to do something. And as you know, Ben, because you were a
Mm.
fan of Mike's and a friend of his, they get into the nitty gritty, into the
Mm.
weeds of things on TMBS. You know, like they get into some hardcore theory type of stuff, right? And the idea was like, yo, we want to do something that's a little bit more approachable, attainable to somebody who doesn't really have the facility with politics that a person like Mike or you might have. And so we developed the Woke Bros just as a concept. Like, you know, I already had gotten a job with the Athletic doing the sports thing, but my company, Count the Dings, we were still doing culture stuff, pop culture stuff. And me always having an interest in politics, I was like, I want to do an offshoot, a political offshoot show just to keep the people in our orbit who are mainly sports focused, you know, movies, TV focused, who are interested in politics, just keep them updated on what's going on with our worldview, right? Which is a worldview obviously you share. It's about normal working people, not people with 7 degrees, not people, and not that I don't love eggheads. Trust me, I love y'all too. Don't get it
Yeah, yeah,
twisted.
but that's not who we're trying to
That's not
whose
what it's
lives
about.
we're focused
Which,
on, right? Yeah.
right? Because we all think that people's lives can definitely be made materially better. You know, than what we got going on right now. And so that's why we started Woke Bros. And that's why that was the whole idea of the name. It was like the concept of making fun of wokeness, making fun of
Yeah.
bro culture. Like it was just like that. And that was Mike,
Yeah.
like he could understand, why maybe some people on the left might be misguided and get distracted by stupid little shiny objects, and how people can be boneheaded out in America just at large. And he was in tune with all of those things, and that's why we did the show. And then of course he brings Nando on, who I never had a relationship with. Nando, I met him in LA because we happened to be panelists on Mike's live show. And before
Yeah.
that, Mike, he took me, Nando, and Anna out for dinner the night before because we were going to be helping him with the show. And that's when I met Anna, who obviously I was a fan of already because she is extremely talented, just incredibly awesome person. And I met Nando at that dinner. And then later on, Mike had the idea of bringing Nando onto Woke Bros, which I was like, fuck it. I mean, of course. And then, of course, Nando comes on, and he's literally one of my favorite people that I've ever worked with, collaborated with in my entire life. And that's all because of the introduction Mike made, and just talking to Nando, which I'm sure you've gotten a chance to talk to him plenty of times. He's about all of the same shit we're about for the exact same reasons, right? And so, yeah, I owe a debt of gratitude to Mike, not just for introducing me and bringing me into this sort of world and this idea of trying to spread this message, but just making me smarter, like just making me think. And by smarter, it doesn't mean like, oh, he made my brain work differently. No, introducing me to just ideas that you just might not have never considered, and just doing it in such a way that people can understand and can feel it. I just think that was his gift, his ability to communicate, just a master communicator.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely.
Incredible, and
Like,
so, I miss him every day. And yeah, that's the story.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, he was better at that than just about anybody else I can think of on the left. I went back and watched his Lafayette College lecture
Oh, so good.
a little while ago, and it's so good, and it's so clear, and it's funny, because it's Michael, and it's and he and the way, and like the Q&A, you have all these like students who are asking him, some fairly annoying college Democrat kinds of questions,
Yeah,
but like, and it would be like really easy for him to just sort of to just kind of like perform like putting them down, right? And then like whatever his fans would like when they saw it later, but that's not what he's doing, right? Like he's like, you can tell he's maybe making fun of him a little bit around the edges, but like he's really like honing in on like how he can like explain things to these kids in ways that'll mean something to them, that like will intersect with their worldview, and not just tell them that they're wrong. And yeah, no, he was amazing about that. And yeah, I'm definitely there with you. I mean, he certainly, when I met him, my book was was gonna come out. It was like several months before that, and like he talked about getting me on a show, and all I thought, we went out for that first, was at a conference, where we met, and we went out for for drinks in the afternoon with our editor Doug Lane, and then and like by the end of that conversation he was like, oh yeah brother, I should have you on the show, whatever. But like all I ever thought that would happen is like I'd be on once or twice to talk about the book, right? And then he had this idea. It was completely his idea. I hadn't like envisioned anything like that about like my doing this weekly segment that I started doing on the show. And yeah, I mean, got was lucky enough to get to know him very well, and stay several times when I be in Brooklyn, crash with him and Theodora at their apartment, and help him work on his book. And I think, I mean, obviously he's an amazing human being. And yeah, no, 2 months later I still there's still some part of me that thinks I can like text him and he'll text me back,
Right.
But yeah, and I definitely learned to like, he definitely changed the way I look at some of the stuff, even though like what I thought was like mostly what I thought about politics. You know, I already thought, you know, when I met him, but I mean, just kind of the way that he just kind of the intuition that he had to have about some of this stuff, the way that he'd like present things and think about them, and like it just it was so appealing, and it's so you know, whatever. I mean, for better or for worse, I mean, it's completely changed, you know, how I approach all of this stuff, you know, in, you know, since like the couple years since getting to know him. So anyway, I'm really happy. You know, I mean, it's really great to finally talk to you. That's
Same, mutual, brother. Same, same.